this is Ashley, Intake Director over at Surrogate First and four-time surrogate. I'm here with Molly O'Brien, who is part of International Fertility Law Group, or IFLG. And we'll be discussing the importance of solid legal counsel for international parents in surrogacy. I'm so honored to be able to have her. But before we get started, I'd like to share a little bit about Surrogate First. So why choose us? If you're a surrogate, you're able to build your own compensation. We have a health and wellness program. We have experienced surrogates as your case managers. We also have a Surrogate Plus program and a supportive community. My favorite, which should not be why you choose an agency, but we also have an amazing surrogate cruise that I get to go on 1 to 2 times a year with all of our surrogates who have delivered babies. I like it. But again, choose your agency because they're supportive, they're knowledgeable. They give you that education side of it, that you have the say in your anatomy and your compensation. And also, if you want to cruise, you can come hang out with me. So that's why I would say pick Surrogate First.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, why not? Right? I'm trying to talk Molly into coming with us, and then she can teach our
I'm in.
surrogates about the legal aspects.
There you go.
And then we have our intended parent side. So we do have a match guarantee. We believe in a no match, no fee. So until 4 things occur, you accept the surrogate's profile, she accepts your profile, the clinic accepts her records, and you complete a match meeting. We do not consider that a match, and we do not take any monies for you in any type of deposit. So that is one of my favorite things about our agency for our parents. We
Me
also
too.
Yeah,
I
right?
love that. I love that. Yeah.
I know we don't believe in holding people ransom. So
Yeah.
we definitely want to make sure that you're taken care of. We also have pre-qualified surrogates. So at this point, I have about a 5 to 7% acceptance rate. That's not because we are picky and don't want to approve any surrogates. But when you follow the ASRM guidelines or the American Society of Reproductive Medicine's guidelines, do background checks, drug panels, psychological evaluations, medical record gathering and reviews, home evaluations, multiple interviews, we end up with 5 to 7. So Molly, you went to law school, but we have the joke at our agency that it's harder to become a surrogate than to get into an Ivy League school since we only have a 5% acceptance rate.
I believe it.
And then we have Molly O'Brien, and there is not anything that she doesn't do. So on top of being, a partner at the IFLG, Molly is also our faithful leader at Seeds. And so she's also battling insurance liens in the state of California. She is the Robin Hood of surrogacy. She's always trying to fight for the little guy and the underdog and to protect all parties. And so I'm really honored to have her here. I did want to share some fun facts, if that's okay with you, about your
yes.
Awesome. Okay. So a couple of things that are amazing. IFLG is a comprehensive service in all 50 states. That is huge because a lot of parents want to connect with a law group. They want to speak with an attorney for agency agreements or to just get that support before they even match. And a lot of times it's recommended that you write the contracts in the state that the surrogate's in. So be able to have a law group that helps you from the very beginning, even egg donor side of it, and then take you all the way through the pre-birth order or the post-birth order is a very valuable thing to have the same team to help you through that. So I think that's amazing.
We set that up so that if the surrogate ever has to move at any point in the process or anything, nobody loses the fee they paid to us. We could start and finish their case no matter where it might end up. But if they go straight for local counsel and the surrogate has to move, now suddenly they have an entirely different and new retainer agreement to pay to the other attorney. So it's risk-free for them.
That is amazing. I also saw recently that, and you can talk about that too later, but I saw you also have an inclusive package.
Yeah, we have a guarantee package.
Yeah.
Unlimited redrafting.
That's scary.
I hope nobody ever needs it.
No, I get that. I get that. But I know from being in the surrogacy field, I've seen where things go awry and then you have to create a new, there's a lot of work put into the legal side. So I can only imagine, how comforting that can be for parents to be able to pay that fee and know that if they need to work with another surrogate or they have to redraft or there's a move to another state, Yeah, that's awesome. And then you guys do like tens of thousands. You've helped tens of thousands of intended parents from 98 countries.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? I mean, there's three partners at the firm, and we have an associate attorney.
Mhm.
And between the four of us and the history we've had in our whole career, uh, our numbers are kind of it's mind blowing to me. Like I look at that and I'm like, really?
I mean, yeah, because you've only completed like, over 34,000
Yeah,
cases with
just a few,
100%
just a
success.
few.
Like
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
little
no
law
big
group,
deal.
huh?
Yeah,
34,000 cases. That's
crazy.
amazing.
Hmm.
Wow. And then, like you said, you've got four attorneys and you
Yeah,
guys have like 80 years of
more
experience,
than 80
combined
years.
experience.
Yeah. So in March, I start my 21st year helping parents through this.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long has Rich been
So
an attorney in this field?
he's like, I think he's got 25 years, and I think Lori has 28, and Phoebe's got 7, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So um it's crazy. Yeah.
And maybe you could share a little bit about yourself because you came into surrogacy in a unique way. It wasn't like you were practicing family law and then decided to focus on art. So maybe you could share a little bit about yourself
I'd
and
love
all that
to.
you're doing in this field because I know quite a few attorneys, but when I'm thinking of someone who knows so many facets and is involved with the bettering of the community, like your name always comes up.
Thank you. That's a very nice thing to say. But you're right. I did get started by working at an agency. So I actually spent my first, it was nearly 7 years that I worked at an agency and just kind of worked with surrogates. This was back in the dinosaur ages when agencies could hold trust accounts. And so I did a little bit of that. I did some surrogate intake stuff, some case management. And it was while I worked at the agency that I decided to go to law school. And the owners of the agency were really super supportive. They let me work during the day and go to school at night and leave a little bit early so I could make it to class. Um, and then I've
Wow.
spent the whole other part of my career doing the legal stuff. But it's cool because it gives me a different perspective, I think. It allows me to really kind of advise my clients, not just on legal stuff, but just on practical and what to expect, what's normal, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like,
I think it's cool.
it is.
It's fun to be able to get to help people do the most important thing they're ever going to do in their lives. I love it.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. I mean, if they would allow me to carry again, I would, but those darn ASRM guidelines with 6
Yep.
pregnancies. People are like, why would you do that? I'm like, oh man, I love it. Like just the experience of
Hmm.
watching these parents, go through so much loss and, and sacrifice. A
Hmm.
lot of people don't realize that parents are going through sacrificing because it's not like money grows on trees. And a lot of our parents don't just have, 150,
Right.
$200,000 to, have a baby. They
Yeah.
are cashing out 401ks
They're
and
selling assets. Yeah, they're doing everything they can to make this work. I met with some parents this morning who it took them kind of 2 years to get matched and get a pregnancy. And we did their parental rights establishment call today. So they're 18 weeks pregnant. We're going through the court process steps together. And I had this amazing feeling after the call because they were ear to ear smile. And it was like, this is such a good moment for them. This is like, we're at the point where this is finally happening. And before we know it, our baby's going to be here. And this is the thing that they've been working so hard towards. And it's just so cool to kind of see that come across. Because, from the first conversation where it's all very tentative and scary. And um, then when, they're doing the contracts and they're like learning to trust the process, but they're still not sure what the outcome is going to be, to having that call and just seeing the smiles, it made my morning, honestly.
Oh, I love that. No, I got to go to an OB appointment yesterday with intended mother and
Yep.
her surrogate because I was in Washington and I'm not
Hmm.
normally here and they had an appointment that same day and it was so nice to see them. And you do like, I don't know, it kind of sounds weird, but like our clients become like my babies where it's like they're growing up and like,
Yeah.
they're achieving something
Yeah.
and you get to
It's
watch
all
them
part
just
of our big family, you know? Yeah, I
yeah.
agree
And it was
completely.
we went to the OB and the OB was like, wow, there's a lot of people here, and it was, the intended mom, and her mom was in town. So this was the first time she got to hear the baby's heartbeat. It's their first
Did you
grandbaby.
cry? I would have cried.
Oh, it was beautiful. Well, it's even better because then the surrogate and her daughter, and the daughter got to use the Doppler to find the heartbeat. So you have all these generations and these different families, and getting to like witness like such a miracle. And it's both their first journeys. And I remember my first journey. And so
Mhm.
like, yeah, if I could figure
That's
out a way to
beautiful.
get my team to just let me be the Walmart greeter of our agency. Like, sorry guys, I have to travel to another state and just love on people.
Yep.
We'll work on it. I'll have you draft me up something.
There you go.
Well, I really appreciate you being here. A lot of our parents, so about 50% of our parents at our agency are international.
Mhm.
And it can vary between like agency to agency of like what that number looks like, but it's not undoubted. And in a time where sometimes parents are looking at, going international
Mhm.
because to save the cost of money, but not realizing what they're giving up
Mhm.
in that saving of money. And so I thought if we could meet together and really just do an
Yeah.
honest talk about what do parents need to do, if they're international and they're going to be going home. And I knew
Mhm.
your law firm knows, I mean, I know it's not everything, but you guys know
Mhm.
close to everything. You have liaisons for different countries.
Yeah.
You've got partnerships after 34,000 cases,
Mm.
have these connections to attorneys in those home countries, that where maybe smaller agencies and smaller law firms may not understand what needs to happen, and it can cause a lot of more money and expenses and heartache
Right.
when going back home. And then on the other side, I'm sure that you have friends around the world, and so I thought maybe you could share a little bit about, hey, if you're looking at going international, you need to understand these things happen and they can happen.
Yeah.
Sound good? I was like, I'm just going to pick your
Let's
brain.
do it. Let's
Okay.
do it.
So I would love to kind of understand the legal landscape of
Yeah.
surrogacy for international parents.
Okay. So the number one piece of advice I can give to anybody, particularly parents who live in other countries who are going to come to the United States to do surrogacy, is talk to an attorney at the beginning. Because there are a lot of things that are going to happen at the beginning stages, matching with a surrogate, talking to different doctors. And one of the cool things about being an attorney is that we are the person who is designed only for the parents, right?
Yeah.
Or only for the surrogate, if that's who we're representing. So have somebody who's your independent advisor kind of telling you what they think. And if you're about to get into with we all know some of the doctor's offices that we wouldn't necessarily recommend. And if they're talking to that doctor's office, we want to be able to prevent a disaster if we can. And there's steps that parents will make at the beginning that can affect the ultimate outcome, particularly international parents, where when they're returning home to their home country, they're going to need certain documents. So if the surrogate that they're matching with resides in a state where those documents are not possible, or the configuration of those documents that they need is not possible, we need to know before they agree to a match. Because if they don't talk to an attorney first and they match with a surrogate, it's not a good state for what they need in the home country. And then they spend all the money on the screening, they spend all the money on the contract, and then we get to the contract and it's, oh wait, this is not going to work for you. They've wasted time, they've wasted money, and it was completely preventable. So the number one tip I have is talk to an attorney from the start, definitely before you match with any surrogate.
I never thought of it that way of with the attorney. I've never thought of it in the aspect of you are the one who's representing the client. So as an agency, we try to do our best to
Yeah,
be
you're
unbiased
balancing.
and represent both parties and be fair about that and
Yeah.
discuss, hey,
But that's your role too.
that is our role.
Mhm.
And as a clinic, you are looking at your success rates and you do want that side of it, but they don't understand the surrogate aspect of like location and legalities. They're just looking, is this person going to be a good candidate for this?
Mhm.
You're looking, how do we get this baby back home and legal,
Yeah.
along with making sure everyone's protected
Yeah.
during the journey.
And that she's a good fit for them
Yeah.
emotionally, all that sort of stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely.
All
I
that
love
matters.
that. And what would be the importance of having a knowledgeable and experienced fertility law attorney? Because I work with, a medical provider as a coach, and I often hear, oh, my employer has, I have legal benefits, right? And so I'm
Mhm.
always trying to explain, please make sure that it's not just a family law attorney, they're quad A certified,
Yeah,
that they're part of ASRM, that,
yeah,
preferably a seeds member,
yeah,
So
exactly.
so why is that?
Well, it's a very niche thing what we do, right? And even if it's somebody who practices in this field, but maybe they've only practiced for a short amount of time, they don't have the experience to know what happens when something goes wrong and how to deal with it and how to fix it. And they don't know how to prevent it. So after, the years and years I've seen and the different experiences that we've had, we're able to kind of predict, what could possibly be coming down. And we can put that into our agreement from the beginning to help cut off any confusion or hurt feelings at the pass. One of the things I've noticed, or that I'm really proud of, I should say, about the contract we have at IFLG, is that it does a really, really good job of making everything clear. There's no ambiguity on when fees are due, why, and that sort of thing. And that just prevents any hurt feelings because it's very clearly in writing. And when you have ambiguous terms, or you use certain terminology that we know is legally problematic, that's somebody's gonna think they're getting a fee when they're not, or vice versa. And it leads to a disruption in the relationship. And really, the whole point of this is to have a beautiful relationship between the parents and the surrogate that is managed by the agency. I will draft them the most beautiful contract in the world, and I hope they never, ever have to look at it because everything is just going so perfectly and beautifully. But the moment there's a disruption in the relationship, the very first place they go is the contract. And if there's any ambiguity there, it's disaster.
Yeah.
So prevent it. That's my advice.
No, I definitely understand. And I think here's part of that, your role as the legal counsel, but not just your role, but the the other attorney's role too. Like, at least from my experience, and you can share because you're the actual professional, but how I look at, attorneys that are in the surrogacy field is this is not a divorce. We're not trying to one up each
You're
other.
right.
We're not trying to screw the other
It's
party.
collaborative.
It is about this
It should be
contract being tight
collaborative.
enough to protect both parties, that it is fair, that everyone
Reasonable.
understands it, and we are trying to move ahead with a match. We're not trying to get one over on each other.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
unfortunately, I've been in experiences before, over 9 years now, where sometimes it feels like, one side is going to stick it to the man. And I'm like, that's not the point. The point is so that everyone feels comfortable moving forward. Everyone feels protected and safe,
Yeah.
and they feel comfortable with it. So maybe you can share a little bit about your role in the back end, because I'm just, on the outside judging, right, as an
Yeah.
agency, but you're the
Yeah.
attorney on the behind the scenes.
Well, this is why an agency like you is so important too, is because this sanctity of the match is everything, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm dealing with a client that I know wants particular things, I'm going to come to you and say, hey, I don't want there to be any surprises. Does the surrogate know this? Does the surrogate, is she on board with it? Because it's not my goal to like go changing your policies and your procedures as the agency. You guys have those in place because that's your role. That's your specialty, is getting people through this and managing the whole journey. But if I know there's particularities in a relationship and a match, I definitely want to clear this with you first. I'm not going to just throw it into a contract and then let it surprise everybody later. Like, that's not going to set anybody up for success. Everything should be out on the table from the beginning and explained and represented. But collaboration with the agency and with opposing counsel, with the surrogate's attorney, or if I'm representing a surrogate with the parent's attorney, that needs to be a good, clear line of communication.
And I'm assuming that with you being in 50 states, you probably have a list too of like, hey, we work really well,
with this attorney,
yeah, I mean, because it's not about like making it easier for you guys, it's about making it easier for, everyone, and saying, hey, this attorney's on it, they're responsible, they're quick, like they respond, so yeah,
but
no,
also
definitely.
balancing the surrogate's right to pick her attorney too.
Yeah.
It's like she always has that choice, no matter who it might be. Though I do think it's reasonable for agencies to say that the attorney should have some sort of modicum of experience in the field, and
yeah, no, definitely. We try to give a list and say, hey, these are why we like these attorneys, but we would never be like, no, you can't use, unless the person was like a real estate attorney, and I'd be like, sorry, we're not going, like, that's not protecting you in any way. Not buying a house. Yeah, I mean, you guys have a lot going on with it. I mean, and you have so many different aspects. I've seen contracts be 40 pages. I've seen them be 60 pages, and it's not fluff. Like there's all different
Content.
kinds of things you guys,
Yeah.
because you're going, what could possibly happen? And how do we put this in the contract to,
And be
to
fair.
protect? Yeah.
Yeah. And we're always drafting it with the eye of, if this goes in front of a judge for a bad reason, how do we want this? We want it to be a fair and equitable agreement, because no court's going to uphold one that's not. So even though I might represent parents, there's going to be things in the contract that are fair to everybody.
Yeah.
And I've never had intended parents push on that kind of stuff. They get it. They want it to be fair too. I think everybody's
Yeah.
coming from a place of, the legal's the boringest part to most people. I think it's the most exciting, but most people are like, contracts. So we try to just get them through it in the most easily understandable, readable way. When I get contracts sometimes that are just like blobs on pages and there's no headings, there's no breakdown, it's overwhelming. Like, like I said, I'm really proud of our contract. We spend a lot of time, multiple times a year, we go through our contract and we update certain things that need to be updated. We clean things up. We take feedback from clients who are like, hey, maybe reword it this way. That sort of stuff is important to have a good living, breathing document. That's always good.
And I always explain to parents and surrogates, like with the compensation package, with the legal contracts, this is not about using all of it. It's these things are there to protect us.
Yeah.
If XYZ happens, we've already gotten in the contract to know how to handle it, what to pay out. We're not hoping for any of that. This is just a protection in case it's not a boring pregnancy.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Yes.
Now, here's a fun one. What are some of the common legal challenges, and how do you guys overcome them with sound legal, age and, and agency counsel? Like, we all want to say, oh gosh, I want to find the most affordable legal counsel. And I want, oh, here's one. I found my template online. So I just need someone to sign off on it. I could see your like little gers. But see, these are things that I see come out, right? Like, oh, well, can't I just use a template from online, or, things like that. What are some of these common challenges you're seeing? And
so this is a very multifaceted and very good question.
Yeah.
So let's address the contract online thing first. First of all, it's completely illegal to do that. It's illegal to steal somebody else's work product. So the parents are putting themselves in the line of fire to get sued for intellectual property theft. And when that contract gets in front of the judge eventually for the parental rights establishment, which it will, a lot of the judges know who the attorney is who drafted that contract. And there's certain judges that we've developed relationships with where one let me know that somebody else was using my contract as their own, another attorney. So it will be found out. Don't do it. Don't steal people's work product. It's not worth it. Also, that contract probably won't protect you because it was written for a specific match and perhaps at a specific time. If anybody comes to me with somebody else's contract, it's going to take me more time and it's going to cost more money for the parents to have me go through it and just change it to what's in my contract anyway, because I know my contract is good.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about that. It's a scary thing. Like, I don't know, like you would never want somebody advertising online who didn't really, go to medical school to be doing your surgery, right?
Yeah. Well, and I see it on my coaching side of it often.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be with family and friends. Can't we just
that's even
get
more
this off online?
right?
And I'm like, no, we need to have separate legal counsel, and you need them to be in the, in the art field, because so many things I'm like, my joke to them is the 3 things that cause a Lifetime movie is going to not having separate legal counsel, not having an escrow, and not having a solid mental health professional that's there. Because
that's amazing and such good advice.
Ruin your relationship. You want to turn into a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
And separate legal counsel that is in the art field is my number one for how do you not become a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more.
Now, you asked about some other common things that you guys.
So pitfalls. I do a lot of work with you, right? So I'm familiar with your agency and how you guys work. This is not about you, but some other agencies don't do such a hands-on job. So sometimes people are getting all the way to the legal phase and big items have not been discussed, like how people feel about termination of the pregnancy in the event there's something wrong. I have seen matches break at the contract phase over this because it was never discussed from the beginning. So it's a huge red flag to me when these things aren't discussed up front and we get here and then people can change their mind. That's not necessarily a problem for me, but it's when it's never been discussed and agreed upon. So that's all stuff that goes into the contract. Honestly, there should be no surprises when you get to the contract phase, right? This should have all been worked out in advance by the agency. A good agency will do that. They will counsel the surrogates, they will counsel the parents, they will talk about all these things in the match meeting. And then I get a full set of documents that tell me what everybody wants. And my job is to just make it look pretty and protect everybody and in nice, good legal terms.
Yeah. And that's an important reason to use an agency that's a esteemed member, because there are, we have our standards. And one of those is, that the parents will meet with the surrogate, with the agency, but also with a mental health professional. They will do a second group session. And that's where a lot of those questions are confirmed that should have been covered. But if they weren't, they're confirmed with the mental health professional, and so definitely looking at, at least with my coaching program, I have never had any of my members, my patients with the coaching program ever complain about a seeds member agency. I have had multiple with non-seed members, and it's because they're not following those standards. So, it's really important to find an ethical agency. Obviously, I'm like, hey, come to us, but we're not always the right fit. So if you're not going to work with Surrogate First, please go to the Seeds website and check the directory, because there are some amazing agencies that are on there that are trying to push the ethics and to make sure that we are raising the bar in this field and protecting it for everyone.
Yeah. This actually, I'd like to point out what you just said, because it was a really honest and transparent thing to say. And it just shows how good your heart is and how you guys operate as an agency, which is, hey, maybe we're not the right fit.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about attorneys too, because you had mentioned like some, lower cost attorneys are kind of where people try to skirt things. And the truth is, like, when it comes to agency choice and when it comes to doctor choice, when it comes to attorney choice, you should like the person you're hiring. You should trust them. You should feel like they're doing a good job. There's not just, I think one of the most difficult things about this whole surrogacy process for anybody is that there's not just one cookie cutter way to do it. If there was, everybody would follow it, right? There's multiple different ways to put together the perfect experience for somebody. I may not be the right attorney for everybody. There's plenty of great attorneys out there. You just do your research and choose who you like, and don't try to cut costs with the most important thing you're going to be doing in your life, having a family. This is not the place to shave costs. Do the right thing. It's worth it in the long run, is my experience. Parents end up spending a lot more money to fix problems because they hired somebody who cost a little bit less because maybe they didn't have as much experience or weren't as good or ethical or so forth.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And and thinking about it, no, but it's not off track. It's on track, because as we talk about parents that are international coming to the US for surrogacy, you may cut corners, but then you may pay big when you get back into your home country and you don't have the documents that you're needing. I've heard stories of parents spending $20,000 to correct something that, had they worked with an agency that prepared them here in the US to be able to go home.
Exactly.
And so, definitely that's something that's important, as parents. Do you have any, I know you talked about making sure that they contact and speak with an attorney right away.
And in their home country.
And in their home country.
And home country. And your US attorney can refer you to a good home country attorney too.
Okay. Yeah, because that's definitely one thing. Now, what about parents? Here's another one. Parents decide they want to go international
yes.
to have a baby.
It's happening quite a bit.
And do they just be able to travel from that country where they got their baby home without any paperwork?
No. So one of the reasons why people come to the United States is because the surrogate's giving birth here, the surrogate's a US citizen, and therefore the baby also is a US citizen. So you're automatically able to get a passport for that child and return home. And a lot of these home countries for parents, they aren't able to get the child recognized as a citizen of that home country immediately. So when parents go to a country that's not set up like the United States, they face that additional challenge of maybe being stuck in that other country or not being able to obtain a passport for that child to travel home. And who knows how long you might have to spend there, 4 months, 6 months, I don't know, longer. It's a real concern, and it's a constant fluctuation in some of these other countries that are very popular for international surrogacy outside of the US right now, is that it's changing. I mean, 3 months ago, for example, Argentina seemed like a good destination for a lot of parents, and it imploded. In a matter of a month, it completely imploded. And now it's a place nobody's going to anymore. And that's what's ultimately going to happen until you have a country that has a complete set legal structure the way the US does, or Canada, for example. It's just, it's not safe. And I'm part of another group that's through Men Having Babies, where we're called this Legal Advisory Committee, but we're a subgroup called the Safe and Ethical Surrogacy Abroad. CISA is what we call it. And we're researching.
You guys and your acronyms.
Yeah. We're researching all these other countries. We're interviewing people who do surrogacy in these other countries, and we're coming up with like an actual, is this truly safe? Is it truly ethical? Are people being taken advantage of here? Are you having to skirt the laws? Are you having to hide the fact that you're maybe a same-sex couple? Like, what sort of risks are you taking on by doing this? And we're coming up with a comprehensive thing for that right now. So that research is well underway.
Oh, that'll be amazing.
Yeah.
If you need me to go to any countries and talk to surrogates, I'm down. I will volunteer.
Awesome.
I spent about a week in Mexico City and got to talk to quite a few surrogates and parents out there. But I'll definitely go wherever you want.
I love that about you.
What about, like, what have you seen? Because parents are going to say like, okay, I'll have to stay there an extra month, but what have you seen in the past with parents going out of country for the surrogacy and then trying to come back? Have you had parents contact you when they're coming back, or
yeah, that's kind of outside of what we do though, because that would be immigration issues, and we don't do immigration.
Okay.
But sometimes parents do contact, and for full transparency, there's a great number of these cases where people go to other countries and it's fine.
Okay.
They're able to figure it out. They come home and everything's fine. Like, it can be fine. But when it goes wrong, it goes wrong to the nth degree, and it's disastrous. And I know that people are taking that risk probably because of a financial reason. And at some point, you just have to do a gut check and a heart check and say, is my cost benefit analysis really safe here? Am I putting myself and my child in a potentially very harmful situation or bad financial situation? Because yes, it could work out fine and you could save $30,000, $50,000, but it could also be disastrous to the tune of $500,000 to $1 million. Like, is that risk worth it? That's a personal decision for a lot of parents, and I get that. It's becoming very cost prohibitive in the United States, and a lot of us are very aware of that. That's one of the reasons why I'm working on this insurance stuff so much with liens and with making pregnancy a qualifying life event. Any place that we can make it safe, but also help bring down costs, let's do it.
Oh, 100%. That's what we're about to. We try to say, like, if we can save money, without lowering the service and the safety, then we want to do that.
Yeah.
Now for you guys, what kind of services do you offer for your international parents? And I'm only asking this because, yes, I'm cheating. I worked personally on a case. Well, so for those of you who don't know, Ashley doesn't have good boundaries. And so I had a French couple that was traveling for a baby in Vegas. So I moved them down the road from me so I could take them to appointments. And so I had never been that close on the afterbirth with an international couple.
Yeah.
But thankfully for me, they had you guys as their attorneys. And so as I would
know who you're talking about.
your assistants would be like, oh, we've already got that taken care of. We booked, like we gave them the paper. And I'm like, I've never experienced that because I had been so hands-on with other cases, like in China, like I didn't have that services with the law group. So I was like, you mean I don't have to do these? Like, that's you guys doing that for me? Like, it was amazing. But maybe you can share with parents, like, this is the difference between a well-rounded, law group that understands getting you back home and what you guys kind of your services look like compared to someone who's like, congratulations, here's your pre-birth order, have fun.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, that's kind of what you get with the lower cost, I think, law firms. I'm not the superstar at my law firm. It is our paralegal team, without a doubt. That team is incredible. And two of the paralegals, the head ones who kind of do all this stuff, have been with Rich for, I guess, 3 of them have been with him for ever. And Rich is the founding partner of the firm, for anybody who doesn't know that. And
it's like a GQ model.
Yeah. And he's just the nicest guy.
And super smart.
Yeah. And he's a parent through surrogacy too. So he's, he and his husband have twins through this process. And so he's a great sounding board for parents too, because he's sat in that seat before. Yeah. But I got to tell you, our paralegal team is the best. They know the people at the vital records offices. They know the people at the hospitals. They've got these people on speed dial and can text them and call them. So when you need that emergency something, we know exactly who to call because of them. Yes, it's fun to get to talk to your attorney and things like that, but it's really the attorney's staff is where that stuff shines, in my opinion. And I'm so glad you had such a good experience with that, because I know which case you're talking about, and it was like boom, boom, boom. And I remember you called me, you're like, it was Kim was the paralegal, and you were just like, she's amazing. And I'm like, I know, she's incredible.
I just never experienced that type of service. And I was like, man, this makes my life easier.
We really, really pride ourselves on full service, hand holding, and walking people through every step. Yeah. Like I always tell people, even when you've returned back home, we're still part of your team. Whatever you need, we're getting it for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I really do appreciate that.
I appreciate the way that you guys do it too, because the fact that you were even thinking of doing it, a lot of agencies don't. So it's a beautiful collaboration when we all come together, know what needs to be done, and make sure it gets done for them, no matter who's doing it.
I think it's the more time you spend in other countries without knowing their language, the more empathy you have for people in your country, because you're like,
yeah,
I've tried to do the China thing, and I'm like, I counted on those poor college students who knew English to help me get through things. So I definitely understand it. Now your law firm also has an escrow, but it's open to your clients. So if there is that, is that it? So
we actually just decided to move on from holding escrow.
Okay.
So starting this coming year, we're not going to be doing that anymore.
Got it.
We really want to focus on the best legal services possible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of escrow professionals out there, and we're going to let them handle that part.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, unfortunately, escrow has been in the news for the last, 2 years, and so do you have any, as an attorney who's seen this side of escrow and trust, do you have any recommendations of like what to look for in an escrow?
And what not to look for?
Yes.
Agency should never, ever be holding your money, ever. I can't believe there's still agencies that do this. The other thing is that you should check with the escrow company to see what sort of bonding that they have and licensure. They need to be licensed in the states where they're operating. One of the big scandals that recently happened basically was able to happen because that escrow company was registered in a state that didn't require certain things. And so they were able to get away with a lot because that wasn't covered or governed. So definitely be asking the escrow company about those things. Are you licensed in the state? Do you have the appropriate bonds? That sort of thing. How much of my money is protected? Is it in a separate account? Those kinds of things. There's a couple of different escrow companies that have some really good FAQs on their website too, to be asking escrow companies. Attorney-client trust accounts are completely different than escrow.
Yes.
Attorney-client trust accounts are held by attorneys. Dispersed, it's the same rules and regulations. If there's a problem, the same thing happens. I know there's a big misconception out there that attorneys wouldn't be able to act the same way an escrow company does, but that's completely false. Attorneys are required. Actually, there's probably even an added protection because the attorney-client trust account is overseen by the state bar of the state where the attorney is licensed. So, but needless to say, there's lots of good FAQs out there on different escrow websites. Do your research. take your agencies have good recommendations of some of the good companies out there.
Yeah. And it's getting harder and harder for agencies though, because there's such a pressure, like our hearts break when these things happen. Same thing with you guys. You guys have worked closely with these parents, and we want to look into things, and we want to make sure that we keep our clients safe. And it's not like an oopsie daisy when things like this happen. Like, it's life-changing for parents. It's life-crushing for parents and surrogates, and so I do appreciate you giving some insight on that side of things too.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and you don't want it going where it's not supposed to go.
Yeah. No, I agree. Now the fun part, if people want to get a hold of you, not you personally, but of the law firm, and then it'll make its way to you.
Yeah, that's fine. But it's all of our email addresses at the firm are our first
Info.
names, and or it's our first name and then iflg.net. So info comes to me as well, but you can also just do Molly at iflg.net.
Oh, you gave us your personal.
Oh yeah.
Hey, guys, an exclusive with Surrogate First webinars. We have Molly's direct email.
I also give clients my cell phone number.
Oh, you're dangerous.
I do that because that's the best way to send me baby pictures.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
That's it's a legal requirement. It's in my engagement letter. You better send me baby pictures.
Oh, I love that. You've got like a whole fridge of like 34,000 babies.
We have the whole staff. We have this special thread on our Teams messages where we share the baby pictures. And so like if I'm ever having a hard day or something's bringing me down, I go right to that thread and I look at all these babies and I look at all these parents, and it's whatever it was that was bothering me does not exist anymore.
Surrogacy is a hard field. I know a lot of people, there's so much positives and there's so many things. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is the amount of lows that like we go through with our clients. Like, we care about them. And so we are in the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And you really have to love this field, and you have to love people and creating families, because burnout is real, and so you see these people have been here for 21 years, and like through and through your heart's in the right place, because it's not always easy. It's not always fun, so we appreciate you. We appreciate IFLG and your commitment to be a steadfast like leader in this field. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, you know where to find me. I'm just 1-833-99-BLESS. I am the 911, the after hours, the weekend phone number. So if you dial that number, because
you're the best lifeline
issues,
ever.
It comes directly to me. Like, I will eventually learn balance, but probably not for another 5 years. And then I'll do it.
You're still
then you can reach out to me, Ashley at surrogatefirst.com. We are not gatekeepers. So if you find yourself in a independent journey, or you find yourself struggling in your journey and you are with an agency, we have no problem giving you guys services and referring you over to providers that can help you through this process. We are all one community, and a lot of us, especially in the Seeds Network, work together to build this community up. So if you ever have an issue, you have a question, I will try to, answer it as, unbiased as possible. I'm pretty opinionated, but I will try my best to help you get the right people to help you. Anything from you, Miss Molly, before we head out?
No, I'm just super grateful for the opportunity to get to come do this with you, Ashley. I adore you. I love your heart, and it's an honor to get to work with you.
I appreciate you too. I fangirl over you, so I think
the
feelings are mutual. I definitely appreciate you. And thank you guys for all being here. We will see you guys in a couple weeks as we go through the holiday season. I have just completed with Jasenia the 2025 webinar schedule. And so we have some amazing fun webinars coming. Yeah, we're revamping the whole thing. So while we do the tried and true, we are going to be putting in some heavy hitting webinars and really challenging this field. So we are excited to be able to do that and see what comes with 2025. So I hope you guys all have a beautiful holiday season, and we look forward to seeing you in 2025. Okay.
Woo!